Now, surely you remember this.
I'm going to say Henry II.
Final answer.
Yep, final answer.
You've just won £1 million!
That, of course, is the first person who picked up that big prize. Everyone wants to be handed a cheque for £1 million, don't they? But what is it like to actually be the person who gets to give out those cheques?
Well, Chris Tarrant, legendary former host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, has just written his first memoir about his time in the business, and very happy to say he joins us now. Chris Tarrant, thank you very much for coming in.
Nice to see you guys. It was just watching that there, I was like, it's quite spooky. I've seen it so many times.
Were you happy to give it, though?
Of course I was. It's not my money. But, I mean, we waited a couple of years before we gave away £1 million. And we were never panicking, but just like... And I have to say this, it's not a sexist thing. I did not expect the first winner to be a woman.
Well, you know, never underestimate the ladies, Chris.
Because, I don't know, just women are much more careful than blokes are going, yeah, I feel lucky, come on,
That's true, men can
and
be
blow
a bit
it.
more confident.
But she was so cool. I'll tell you a really weird thing about Julie. Sorry, I know you've got your
That's
question.
all right. No, this is more interesting.
Talk away, sir.
I love Julie. She's great. And she was extraordinary. On the day of the show, she did rehearsal and she was fine. And I said, any questions at the end? She said to me, what would happen if I faint? And I said, do you have a history of fainting? She said, no, not at all. What would happen if I faint? And I went, well, if you were lying at my feet and I was asking a question and you couldn't answer it, we probably would stop then. And she went, oh, thank you. And then the next day, the next few hours, she won £1 million.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to ask.
Amazing. She was obviously pretty nervous, but it's easy to forget, in a way, what a massive show that was and what it turned into.
I know.
Did you just grab it with both hands, or did you have any doubts?
No, foolishly. I didn't turn it down, but I was like... I actually said to Dave Briggs, my mate, the producer, I said, I'm really busy, Briggsy. I'm doing Tarrant on TV, and I was obviously doing Capital Radio every morning, and I thought... And I actually said to him, the only people David knew really on telly were me and Kenny Everett. And the idea of Kenny doing... It would actually be very good. I mean, the idea of Kenny doing Millionaire would be quite bizarre. So I said, look, I'll do your pilot so you've got something to take around the networks and all that. And then doing the pilot, I thought, I quite like this. And then we sort of went, I reckon we might get 3 years out of this, well, 15 years later, And it was huge. I think people forget. There's something in Broadcast magazine, after a few months it went on air, and the television viewings for that month were 19 places were Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and one was EastEnders. And every country it's been to, 120 countries around the world, it's gone straight to #1. It's just a monster.
Now, we have to remind ourselves of that extraordinary moment. We can't not talk about Coughgate. Let's just hear that again and remind ourselves of that.
A1 or Craig David.
Did you think something was up?
No. I've always been quite open. I didn't. I mean, that show was just extraordinary. People were screaming, yelling, gasping. I mean, you thought, he's mad. He's got one lifeline. He had one lifeline left after about 4,000 quid. And he just kept on going, I've no idea, I haven't a clue, but I'm going to play, and all this stuff. And people are going, oh, gasp, shout, yeah, roar, and coughing. Yeah. So I don't think there's a serving British Army major in front of me, coughing in a million years.
And all three were convicted?
Yeah, they were.
All three were convicted, and it was made into a drama, I want to say, in 2020 quiz.
Yeah, I know.
How did you feel watching that, and what did you think of Michael Sheen playing you in his depiction of you?
The voice, I've got some very good mates who I work with in radio whose voice, the Tarrant voice, is better. But he was, but he was pretty close. And he's not an impressionist like Rory Remley or something. He doesn't go, oh,
but he's just good.
He doesn't do any of that. But his voice was great. And what I just found weird was his body language. He's obviously watched hours of tapes of me, poor soul. And, like, there are just... when I used to get into the chair, I did a sort of Fosbury flop. And then there's a bit where I've got a contestant I'm about to go on, and I just do this thing. I just do this thing with one leg, like a sort of mad duck. It's most peculiar. And I said to my missus, do I do that? She went, yes, you do it every single time, darling.
He'll be very impressed to hear that. I know Michael Sheen's watching. He loves 5 News.
Yeah. But he's an actor. He's not an impression. He's brilliant. Quite brilliant.
So you've got your book out, of your first book, maybe, of memoirs. But we've talked a lot about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. What about Tiswas, where it all began?
Tiswas? Just extraordinary. I mean, I must admit, obviously, for doing the book, I've been looking at a lot of clips and photos. Did we really do this? And there's children swarm. The one I love, the thing I love most looking back at stuff, is the cage. Because this idea we would get sort of 15, 20 members of the public, put them in a cage for 2 or 3 hours and just cover them in gunge. And they loved it. I mean, there was a waiting list for each series for the cage before we even went on air, you know, in September till next April, whatever.
Just on a slightly more serious note, you've taken in a Ukraine family, a family from Ukraine. Tell us about that.
So sweet. Well, it's a mum, it's a daughter and her baby, who's a little 10-month-old little girl, and you just think, I don't know, we were watching the stuff, and I mean, I hate everything about it. It's just so sick and evil. And if you watch this little kid playing, she's nearly walking. I'm hoping she'll walk like when she lives, you know, living with us. Yeah. And you just watch it, you think, you know, if you weren't here or somewhere else, what would your life could have been like? I mean, awful. They were sleeping for several nights. They slept on airport floors in Poland.
Can I just ask quickly, what do you think of the way the system worked? Was it very bureaucratic?
Well, with us, the husband, who was still fighting in the Ukraine, he got them out before, or at least got visas for them, some sort of family visa, before Putin actually invaded.
But so what about the British end of the system?
I think it's probably a bit of a shambles. It's getting better.
OK.
I do know people who are trying to get more in, and it's very difficult.
Really quickly, your best job?
I beg your pardon?
Best job?
Working with you now.
OK, that's it. You're coming back, Chris.
Correct
Definitely
answer.
the right answer. Chris Tarrant, such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.